In life, we face moments of doubt, confusion, and uncertainty. But did you know that the simple act of surrendering to the sujood can transform not only our spiritual state, but also our destiny? Today, we will explore how repeating a sacred phrase 3 times in sujood can shake up your destiny, change your heart, and bring you closer to your Creator. First, sujood, a deep spiritual journey. The sujood, this act of prostration and prayer, is not simply a physical posture. It is a spiritual journey, an intimate passage between the believer and his Creator. When we bow, our hearts are lifted to a higher place, a place where we find ourselves in our purest and most humble state. Every movement of sujood is an act of complete submission, a total abandonment of earthly concerns, a moment where we let go and where we place our entire being under divine protection. Think for a moment about this precious moment when your forehead touches the ground, and imagine yourself as a humble creature reduced to its purest essence, drawing closer to the Lord. The simplicity of this gesture hides infinite depth. Every second you are in sujood is an opportunity to get back to basics, to reconnect with what transcends you. Worldly thoughts fade away. The ego fades, and in this moment of pure abandonment, you are just yourself, before the one who knows your desires, your sorrows, and your hopes. Sujood is not just a simple physical position. It is a spiritual act which purifies the soul, soothes the heart, and invites deep inner tranquility. Every time you bow down, you cast off the burdens of the world. Like a gentle wind blowing away dust, you draw closer to a purity rediscovered. This is not a simple, repeated action. It is a real encounter with your Lord. And when you do it with a sincere heart, a detached mind, and a clear intention, that's when the magic begins. It is not only your body that bends, it is also your soul that straightens itself, which strengthens itself, and which rises towards inaccessible spaces otherwise. When you are in this position, you are closest to Allah, a time when everything becomes possible. This moment is divine because you are there, alone with Him, without obstacle, without distraction. You are totally under His protection, and this is where profound transformations can occur. And in this sacred moment, the fact of repeat an invocation 3 times in sujood can be the starting point for a radical change, not only in your spiritual destiny, but in the very direction of your life. It is essential to understand that this action is not mechanical. It requires deep commitment, intention pure, and an unshakable belief in the power of the call to Allah. As you humble yourself before Him, you are not just praying a prayer. You are initiating a spiritual dialogue that could reshape your existence, change the direction of your events, and open doors you never imagined. The sujood is this door, and each prostration invites you to move to a higher level of your relationship with the divine. And it's not just an act of devotion, it's an act of personal transformation, which allows you to discover a closer, stronger, and more determined version of yourself. 2. Why repeat 3 times in sujood? There is something deeply mystical and psychological about repeating an invocation 3 times in sujood. This practice is not a simple act of redundancy. It contains within it a spiritual depth which goes well beyond the words spoken. The act of repeating in sujood is a way of intensifying our spiritual intention and to focus our hearts on a specific request, while bringing it before Him who hears all, sees all, and knows all. In our daily lives, we know that repeating an action or thought several times has a powerful effect on our mentality. In psychology, repetition is often used to solidify intentions and strengthen memories. In Islam, this goes well beyond simple repetition. Each repetition becomes an open door to deeper connection with Allah. Repetition creates a form of spiritual discipline which sharpens our concentration and focuses our heart on the request we address to it. This helps us move out of the superficiality of prayer and into a state of spiritual unveiling. When we say something 3 times in sujood, it allows us to pay full attention to it. This gives us the opportunity to reflect on the depth of our request and the embody in our heart. By saying something 3 times, we are fully committed. This repetition is not a simple noise. It is a sincere invocation, launched with faith and humility. Each repetition becomes an affirmation of faith. We remember that acceptance of prayers is often found in perseverance, in the constancy of demand. It is not a question of repeating the same words, but of intensifying our submission to Allah, renew our call to Him, to strengthen Him in our hearts with each repetition. The psychological power of repetition is also amazing. When you repeat something 3 times, the mind begins to deeply integrate it. This allows you to detach yourself from external distractions and make way for deep inner meditation. Repeating our supplication in faith, we awaken our souls to a higher consciousness. This is not limited to a simple verbal repetition, but becomes an act of self-purification, where every word we speak is charged with pure intention. We rise beyond the routine of prayer and enter a state of sincere reflection and expectation. Repetition in sujood is not a simple mechanical gesture either. It reflects an interior opening. We repeat to strengthen the connection with Allah, but also to reaffirm our devotion and our trust in Him. Each repeated invocation becomes like a gateway to infinite blessings. We seek to change our destiny, to purify our hearts, and to open new spiritual doors. It is in this moment of spiritual intensification that our destiny begins to change under the light of divine guidance. The 3 repetitions are a powerful symbol, an act of faith, an act of patience, and an act of consecration. They illustrate our understanding that nothing is acquired easily, that blessing is found in constance and the perseverance, and that each prayer, even repeated several times, is a means of bringing our destiny closer to what is best for us, according to Allah's divine plan. Ultimately, each repetition of this invocation in sujood becomes an opportunity for renewal, purification, and strengthening our faith. It reminds us that, no matter the situation or the trials we go through, perseverance in invocation always opens doors to unsuspected blessings. 3. The power of words in sujood. The power of words is often underestimated. However, in prayer, each word, each invocation carries an immense potential for transformation. And it is in the sujood, this position of total submission and humility, that the power of words takes on an almost mystical dimension. When we make an invocation in sujood, it is not just a verbal act. It is a spiritual energy that emanates from us, heading towards the divine, an energy that only Allah can understand and accept. Their power of words in sujood is not only linked to their literal meaning, but to their ability to transform our intention and to reorient our destiny. A simple but powerful invocation that can be repeated in sujood is, Ya Allah, change my destiny for the better. These words, spoken with faith and sincerity, are a direct appeal to Allah, a cry of the soul seeking to transform itself. Each repetition of this phrase in sujood becomes an act of total submission, acts of reconnaissance of the greatness of Allah and a commitment to let His power guide our existence. These words are not just a material demand, they are one call for a deep inner transformation. They represent a spiritual opening, a sincere request for purification of the soul, a quest for inner peace and of closeness to Allah. When we say, Ya Allah, change my destiny for the better, we are not just asking for an external change. We demand a complete reorientation of our heart and mind. We demand that our actions, choices, and intentions be guided toward what is best for us in this life and the afterlife. Every word becomes a promise to stay faithful to Allah, to maintain our trust in Him even in difficult times. These words become spiritual steps which bring us closer to good, not only in terms of material prosperity, but also in terms of spiritual growth and elevation of the soul. Repeating these words 3 times in sujood is an act that goes beyond simple repetition. It is an act of spiritual perseverance, a way of demonstrating our deep faith in Allah's ability to change everything. This is not simply a request sent to heaven, but a commitment to trusting divine wisdom, to accept that, even in moments of uncertainty, destiny is in good hands. It is not a question here of claiming goods or blessings to satisfy our worldly desires, but of submit fully to the will of Allah, while seeking to ensure that every aspect of our lives is governed by His infinite wisdom. The repetition of this supplication in sujood is a manifestation of our deep humility. Each time we say it, we recognize that we are nothing without divine will. It is a form of spiritual purification, where weaknesses and doubts are dissipated in the intimacy of prayer. This invocation also becomes an engine of change, which activates an invisible force in our life. The blessings that result are not limited to the material aspects of our existence, but also touch the deepest aspects of our soul: inner peace, emotional balance, and constant reminder of the presence of Allah. It is not just a matter of asking for change, but an act of transformation of our will, a change of vision and of priorities. When we repeat this invocation in sujood, we put ourselves in a posture of humility and total devotion, which opens the way to blessings we could not have imagined. This is where the hidden power of words in sujood lies, in their ability to reorient our destiny, has transformed our hearts, and to bring us closer to Allah in our quest for what is truly best for us. The importance of sincerity and trust. It is not enough to utter words, however sincere they may be, without to feel their meaning deep in the heart. Every invocation, every prayer, every supplication must be imbued with the purest sincerity. It is not the quantity of words that counts, but the quality, intention, and the faith that accompanies them. In the sujood, where our head touches the ground, where we find ourselves in the most total humility, it is essential to remember that the sincerity of our heart is the key that unlocks the doors of divine mercy. Prayer is above all a spiritual connection with Allah. The words we say in sujood, although essential, are all the more powerful when accompanied by a sincere intention and absolute confidence in the goodness of Allah. It's not just a matter of which formulas to recite. It's a deep act of faith. In Islam, we are taught that every supplication to Allah must be accompanied by hope that it will be answered, even if the answer does not come immediately. Their sincerity of our request, our spiritual commitment, and the trust in divine wisdom opens invisible paths to answers that go far beyond what we imagine. Allah constantly reminds us in His great mercy that He is always close of His servants, ready to answer their calls. In Surah Al-Baqarah, He says, "And when my servants ask you about me, I am near. I respond to the call of the one who calls upon me when he invokes me." Surah Al-Baqarah 2:186. This verse is a testimony to the divine proximity. Allah hears every word, every sigh, and each sigh becomes a bridge to an answer, whether immediate or long-awaited. But it is imperative to firmly believe that Allah always responds, sometimes in ways we don't immediately understand, but always in a way that is perfect and appropriate to our well-being. The key to changing destiny, therefore, lies in the sincerity of our heart and the trust totality that we place in Allah. When we ask Allah to change our destiny, it is not just an act of external demand, but an inner commitment to believe that He will do what is better for us, even if it does not always correspond to what we imagine. Trust in Allah means knowing that what we ask may not always be granted depending on notre timing, but may Allah knows what is best for us in each moment. And it is in this total confidence that we find the tranquility and the peace. During our supplications, especially in sujood, we must be attentive to our heart. Do not let our requests become automations. The repetition of words must be accompanied by a constant renewal of our faith in response from Allah. It is not a question of mechanically repeating words, but of investing our soul in each invocation. This humility deep, this abandonment of our personal will to accept the divine will, is what truly brings us closer to Him. And sometimes Allah's answer does not come in the form we expected, but through another door, another path. Allah always answers, but His answer is perfect because He knows what is truly good for us. This confidence in the fact that Allah knows better, that what we need in every moment of our life is what nourishes our sincerity and our humility. It is this trust that ultimately allows us to change our destiny, because by totally abandoning ourselves to His will, we open our hearts to a greater, brighter destiny, more aligned with what Allah has best for us. Humility sujood is not simply a physical posture, it is a state of the soul, and withdrawal from the world to let Allah act in our lives. It is in this perfect submission that spiritual miracles begin to occur, that our destiny is transformed under the light of divine guidance. And it is in this humility, with unwavering confidence, that we discover answers and blessings we could never have imagined. 5. The change of destiny by the blessing of sujood. The sujood is not simply a physical movement. It is a spiritual act, an intimate conversation with Allah which is beyond human understanding. When we prostrate ourselves, we surrender ourselves entirely to the divine will. We open our hearts to the possibility of radical change in our lives. It is easy to perceive sujood as a simple posture in prayer, but this posture is actually a bridge to transformation, a way to connect us directly with the source of all blessing. Every time we bow down in sincerity, a spiritual energy unfolds, a force invisible which can not only influence our soul, but also tangibly change our destiny. Whether to improve our health, to find support in trials, or to obtain the necessary clarity to make important decisions in our lives, the sujood then becomes the means by which we let Allah reshape our journey. It is a blessing that we receive in every gesture of humility, a divine breath that touches our soul and modifies our reality. The repetition of the invocation in sujood, in particular by asking Allah to change our destiny for the better, is not just a simple ritual. This gesture is full of meaning. It becomes a pure and profound act of faith, an engagement towards Allah. Each repetition is not just a reminder, but a step towards a brighter future, a future guided by divine will in which we seek above all satisfaction d'Allah. It is not just an act of request, it is an act of submission, of absolute confidence in divine wisdom. When we ask Allah to change our destiny, we must understand that every repetition of this supplication is a spiritual investment to bring us closer to our goal, which is to align our lives with the will of Allah. And the change that follows can be unexpected. It is important to remember that the change of destiny does not manifest itself beforehand in spectacular or immediately visible events. Allah works in subtle ways, and the blessings He gives us through sujood can manifest in aspects of our lives that we had not thought of. This could be a progressive of our state of health, response to financial difficulties, or a deep inner change which is reflected in peace of heart and mental clarity. Change can come in small blessings that come together to create major turning points in our lives. When repeating this supplication 3 times in sujood, one should not simply concentrate on what one is asking, but on the depth of our spiritual connection with Allah. This is not just a wish list, but an act of realignment of our heart with the divine blessings. This process helps us to be more aware of the blessings that already surround us, while opening us to new paths that we would not have seen without this humility and this trust in Allah. This tangible change in our destiny is not immediate, but Allah always answers in a perfect way. Perhaps at first, we do not immediately see the fruit of our supplication, but as a wise man says, the seeds don't always germinate immediately, but the rain is there, nourishing the earth. The sujood becomes this rain spiritual that nourishes our faith, and each time we prostrate ourselves, we know that we have taken a step closer to this divine blessing that awaits us. And even if the answer seems to be late, the trust in Allah remains steadfast, because we know that everything happens at the perfect time, according to His infinite wisdom. From this perspective, sujood becomes much more than just a part of prayer. It's an open door to powerful life changes, to blessings that we would never have imagined, but which will happen when we least expect it. Allah, in His mercy, transforms our destinies with each act of devotion, and the sujood, made with humility, becomes one of the most direct ways to receive this divine transformation. My dear brothers and sisters, remember that sujood is a powerful moment in your spiritual life. Each repetition of this sincere and humbling prayer can truly change your destiny, because you are in direct contact with Allah, the one who holds control over everything that happens in the universe. By repeating, Ya Allah, change my destiny for the better 3 times in sujood, you open the door to unlimited blessings and divine transformation. So the next time you find yourself in this sacred posture, remember the power of your supplication and firmly believe that your destiny can change in any moment under the blessing of Allah.